Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over the New Mutants number 45. But before we get into that, I'd like to remind you that there's a poll going on, and check out Kevin McGuire and Dale Keown, and let us know who your favorite artist is out of these two. They're both fantastic, and it's a super tight race. And so far, I think there's more people for Dale, but they're both fantastic. And let's see who goes on to the next round and which ones you guys like. I was going to do today. I was going to do the second part of the Rogue analysis of what she was doing before she joined the X-Men, and all of the comics that she was in before the X-Men. She was originally going to be in Miss Marvel 22 or 23 or something like that. I can't remember, but they canceled her book before that came out. So then they repurposed it in 1992 because it originally came out in 81 or 80, something like that. They repurposed it in 1991, 92, and reproduced all of the Rogue material. And so really, I feel that this is the first appearance of Rogue. But the second part of that was in the Avengers Annual 10, and that's where Rogue attacks her on the Golden Gate Bridge and stuff. But I have my copy here, and I sent it off to CGC and got a fancy 8.5, as you can see. So I can't really dig into my own copy. But before that, I had bought a king size Avengers Annual 10 reprint with a fantastic cover by Terry Dodson. And I mean, this is a beautiful cover, and that's really what I wanted, because the cover for this one really kind of sucks. But much to my surprise, when I reread this, it's actually missing pages. It's missing. They even reprint the cover here, but it's missing pages where Rogue attacks and incapacitates Captain America, and where she attacks Thor. So there's pages missing. So how can I go through this with pages missing? I was thinking of maybe getting those missing pages off the internet or whatever, and just kind of cobbling them together. And I may still do that, but I'm thinking I'm going to buy another reprint, a different reprint, because this actually came with one of the toys, one of the Legends toys. So I'm going to try to figure out what I'm going to do to continue on the path of where Rogue is in the timeline for the X-Men, how she joins the X-Men, what she does before the X-Men, and all that cool stuff. And before we go into that, something real quick is I produce a comic book, and that helps promote the show, or that helps me produce the show and stuff. It's random access. I make this every month, and I'm up to issue 29 that's coming out this month. And you can check that out at patreon.com/Alex Turbin, or you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com, and check out all the stuff. Here is actually the newest one. Or you could go to my email, alexturbin04401 at Yahoo, or Instagram. Contact me at alexturbin04401 at Instagram. So now that I'm done with the self-promotion, let's get into the comic books, which you're really here to see. When I am thinking about what comic book I'm going to review or go over during the day, I'm always thinking about, because I'm a DoorDasher, and usually I'll go in the afternoon, DoorDash, come home, make a video, and usually it's while I'm DoorDashing that I'm thinking about the comic book that I want to go through, and I'm thinking about my stack of stuff. Do I want to go through and review and do a deep dive for this action comic, this an Image thing, a McFarlane thing, or do I want to delve into a power comic, the black and white power comic of some notoriety, or maybe something nobody's seen before? And it's all of these different things that I'm thinking about. What are people going to want to listen to, and what are they going to want to watch, and what can I do to best showcase comic books, because really that is my main goal here, is to showcase the power of comic books. And then I'm always thinking about the power of comic books, and I'm always talking about that on the channel. And I'm just always discussing that with Joe when we do live streams. And he's a lot into the illustration of the comic books, and the art and the cool scenes and the fight scenes and stuff like that. And I'm more into the emotional aspect. I really want to be touched when I'm reading a comic book, for the most part. I mean, sometimes I just want to laugh. Sometimes I do want to, just a fight scene comic book of some cool superheroes duking it out with a supervillain or something. But so it totally depends on my mood. It was the best when I was in high school or whatever, junior high, and I would go to the comic book store on a Wednesday, and I would grab a stack of comic books, and I would often get a whole gambit of different things. I would get the humor from Hate, or from Yummy Fur or whatever, or Gru, and then I would get the intense emotional struggles going on in New Mutants or X-Men, which would also often have the action and stuff that I'm looking for, and then I might pick up something horror, or an indie comic or something like that. So I would have all of this stuff at my fingertips, and I would be able to go through with them one at a time. And I don't know if you guys did this when you went to the Wednesday Comics, where you would grab a stack of comic books and you would go home, and then you would arrange them. I would arrange them in the order in which I wanted to read them. X-Men were always last. I always wanted to save the very best for last. And then I'd be like, do I want to start with something a little bit lighter, a little bit more humorous, to kind of ease into it, and then maybe some horror, or maybe some action, something like that, just to kind of get into my reading experience of an hour, half an hour, whatever it was that it took me to read my 10 to 15 comics, or whatever it was I got. But so I'm always thinking about that during the day, as to what I think you guys would like to watch, and what I think would most progress this comic medium that I love so much. And today, and sometimes I just feel like I want to look at something that I truly feel promotes the comic book medium in a way that is completely unique and different. And almost all the times that when I'm thinking that, I'm thinking of something that Alan Moore has written. He just writes some stuff so poignantly, and so intricately, and so personally, that it feels like he's writing to you yourself. And he delves into things that are so unique and different and stuff. So I almost always venture into what he's done, or some Frank Miller or something, because he's very much the same way. Even though it is very action oriented, it's also very personal in the stuff that he does. But then when I go back through that layer, I'm thinking the New Mutants and the X-Men have touched me the most. Chris Claremont's writing has touched me the most. I think so much of it is because of the subject matter that he writes about, racism and bigotry and all this other kind of stuff. And really, it's just like Harry Potter. Who hasn't felt like they've been picked on, or like that they're different, or they're a freak? Especially if you like comic books, and especially if you were back in that time when comic books were really looked down upon. Nowadays, it's not so much. It's way more accepted with the success of the Avengers movies and the Marvel movies and all of that stuff. It's way more way more accepted. But back in the day, I mean, you were really a nerd and a geek or whatever, and those weren't good words back then. They were really trying to be hurtful, and you were just a loser if you read comic books, pretty much. And I think Joe said it himself, that he kind of felt like he wasn't being cool if he read comic books, and so he kind of went away from the comic book scene. I was on the other side. I fought vehemently with anybody saying that comic books was not a real mature and a real art form. I truly feel that it's a fine art. I don't feel like it's a like advertising or whatever. It's a fine art. It definitely is. And I'm willing to debate anybody that says otherwise. If you want to come on here and debate it, I will definitely do that 100%. So I was thinking about the New Mutants, and there's so many issues where they talk about so much of that stuff. It's not just a young X-Men group. It's an X-Men. It's a young group of people who are learning how to deal with being mutants and castaways and stuff. So I really wanted to do that, and this being the first Marvel 25th anniversary cover that I'm going through. That's a bonus. I'm actually kind of collecting these. Back in the day when I first got them, I really didn't like them. I really thought it was kind of lame, and I was really put off by all of them. And some comics I wouldn't even get because of that, because of this frame. And I'm really regretting it now because for some reason it just clicks with me, and I just want to have all of them. And I've got maybe 10 or 15 of them, but there's like 40 of them or something like that, 40 or 50. So I'm really going to try to go back and collect all of them all together. And that would really be a crowning achievement for me. So let's get into this. It's, like I said, it's Chris Claremont. And this is not a superhero bash. Like I said, this is not something that uh, you're not going to take away a cool fight scene. There aren't even any super villains in this. It's just just a tight little story, and it's something that I aspire to in my comic book creating. Um, so all of this, I'm not gonna go in too much detail except for the very last page, which I'm actually going to the last two pages. I'm actually going to read verbatim, and they can be there. It's a little bit. It could be offensive, so if you have problems with some offensive material, then you might not want to listen to the end of this. But it's basically just saying it's recounting how Xavier's school is it's a school, and they're very solitary. There's only like 10 mutants, 10 or not even 10, 8 to 10 of these new mutants, and they live a solitary life. They stay on the grounds. Every once in a while they go into town or whatever, but they live a solitary life. So they're really excited when the local high school invites them to go to one of their dances, and they're super excited. I mean, they're teenagers, so the guys want to get with the girls, and the girls want to have that electric dancing experience, and that electric high school dance thing. And anybody that's actually been to a high school dance, you probably either have horror stories or happy stories. I have both. I mean, there were times when I really enjoyed it, and there were times when I really didn't. But I would like to hear some of you guys' dancing experiences or your high school dancing experiences. I would love to tell the story that my wife has of her dancing experiences, and I'll ask her if I can relate that high school dance experience to you guys. We'll see. But they're all very elated, and they transform the time that they're supposed to go to the dance. They transform. They're in their costumes or whatever. They're like they've been training all day to be mutants and mutant heroes or whatever. The new mutants. So they're all in their costumes and stuff. Magic, who can teleports them to the high school, and they like, I guess that they get changed from their uniforms by, I think Magic does. I think she magically does it, and so they all turn into their fancy duds and stuff. No, they actually brought them. She doesn't do magic, so my bad. So then it goes into the dance hall, and some of them are super popular because they're good looking. Roberto Jacosta, Sunspot, he's rich. He's not famous, but he's rich, and he's got that personality of he's going to go out there, grab as many women as he can, and dance the night away, and have this really great time. And then there's Magic, Ileana, and the guys are just flocking to her because she's like this long blonde haired beautiful girl. And even though she's only 14, 15, 16, something like that, just like all of them, they have their niches that they kind of go to. Kitty, or Magma, and Cannonball, they're having their discussions about how he's excited to be there. She's excited to be there, but they have different type of dancing because she's from Nova Roma, and like had this proper Roman, old, antiquated Roman upbringing and stuff. Kitty, she's upset because all of the guys want Liliana, her best friend, and they just were hanging out with Kitty to get to her, and she's just having this horrible time. And then, like I said, Roberto is having a great time because he's just a good looking dude, and all the girls want to be with him. Warlock and I can't remember his name. Warlock and his buddy here, who's Cypher. What's his name? I can't remember. They notice that Danny is being kind of harassed by one of the high school kids. She doesn't want to have anything to do with it, and he's being a little bit harsh. And he's like, "Hey, babe, you're gonna like it. Just get into it." And she's like, "Buzz off." And Warlock and I cannot remember his name. I just read this and I can't remember his name. And he's one of my favorite characters too. So Warlock transforms into this big hulking dude, and he's like, "Buzz off, get out of here before I kick your butt." And so Danny's grateful, but she's not feeling it. She's kind of feeling flustered or whatever, so she's gonna take off. She's gonna go home, and they're like, "Well, that kind of sucks." And because especially because Warlock asked her if she could dance with him and show him what this custom is, that's this dancing thing. And I really love Warlock. I wish they had just a Warlock miniseries or a Warlock series. I think they did, and I might have to go back and look. But it's not really. I mean, there's so intricate storylines that he's been a part of, where his innocence, his pure innocence, and his just desire to be part of the team and be part of the humanity and to run away from his father. And it's just so impactful and so fantastic. And I just might have to reread all of the New Mutants that I have. Danny, again, she's walking off to the parking lot to get some fresh air, whatever, and she calls her winged stallion. This must be after X-Men Annual. I can't remember the annual. It's the one where they go to Asgard and they fight the Loki and the Asgardians, and it's an X-Men crossover. It's really one of the best things I've ever read, and I'm definitely going to go over that at some point. But that's a special occasion kind of thing. But she's a Valkyrie, and she's got this winged horse, and she can just whistle, and the winged horse comes and flies to her. But somebody that's looking at her is just this regular kid, and he can make crystalline sculptures. That's his mutant ability. So he's looking at Danny. He's looking at her getting on the horse, and she actually talks about her ability as a Valkyrie to see who's going to die, and she can fight death in response to the person that's going to be killed, and if she wins, then he or she lives. But I think she didn't really notice that this kid was even there, so it wasn't really like a big thing. She did notice that this X Factor bumper sticker on somebody's car, it's a X Factor, we take care of mutants the old-fashioned way, permanently. So right from the very beginning of the story, only 6 pages in, we know that this is going to be something powerful, and it's going to involve X Factor. And maybe you're thinking, hey, maybe X Factor will show up, because they kind of, when they showed up on the scene, they were mutant hunters, and they were disguising themselves as mutant hunters to find mutants to help them. But it really kind of blew up in their faces. But so he makes a sculpture of Danny, and she's like so beautiful and stuff. But then it blows up when Magneto and the headmaster, or the principal from the high school, because they're walking the grounds, making sure no high school kids are getting into trouble or whatever. And so they're talking to this kid, and I can't remember his name. Michael? No, Michael Xavier is what Magneto calls himself. Larry. This kid's name's Larry, and it's so fantastic to see Magneto being the headmaster of the New Mutants. I wish that him being a good guy in X-Men 97 was really explored a little bit more, because in the X-Men, he was turned into a good guy when he took over Xavier's post as headmaster of the school, when Xavier died of a heart attack / went up into space with Lilandra and the Starjammers. But he really gets into the whole thing the whole identity of being a good guy, of being a headmaster, of looking over the kids. And he really kind of goes into this where he's talking about I can't remember if it's here. Yeah, it's here. Because Larry is just kind of hanging out, being away from it. He's new to the school. He's and there's Magneto says, go join the fun, join the party, join the dance, and maybe you'll find some friends and maybe you'll have a good time. And he corrals Kitty to go dance with him and kind of show him a good time. Not that way, you sick pervos. But she does, and they're going to go dance in the hall. And this is when Magneto kind of admits to the headmaster or the principal or whatever, that he feels very uncomfortable teaching these kids, and he's worried that they're going to grow up and hate him. And it's such a strange dichotomy, because he is Magneto, the master of magnetism, part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and he's just he's this powerful figure, and then he's just relegated to this headmaster where he's so scared of doing the wrong thing. And that's really what being a parent is all about, is having that worry and stuff. So Kitty and Larry are inside, and they like each other. They in their thought balloons, which is one of the great things. I don't use thought balloons nearly enough. I'm going to have to do some more, because they actually share a thought balloon here where they've said the wrong things because they're these clumsy teenagers, and they want to kind of hit on each other, and they want to spend time together, and they want to get to know each other, and they're liking each other, they're liking each other's vibe, and so they're really into it. But then they say all these stupid things that kids say, and so he kind of takes off. He's trying to kind of realign himself. He offers to go get her some punch or whatever, and she's kicking herself in the butt, and he's kicking himself in the butt for saying such stupid stuff. And then we go to this little teen inside the party where these guys are around the punch bowl, and they're saying anti-mutant derogatory things. And they make a joke about mutants. They kind of say this: how many mutants does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer is none. They're glowing anyway. So it's supposed to be like this really derogatory, slangy joke about mutants. And Larry comes by, and they say that he's listening in, and they're kind of picking on the new kid, making fun of the new kid, because these are just like typical high school jerks, and who have no thought about anything but themselves, and or they're overcompensating, having their own inadequacies, kind of translating it onto somebody else. And so they kind of do that. And he just gets really upset about it. They accuse him of being a mutant, and which obviously he is. He can make these light sculptures, and then he just gets really flustered. He ends up going back to Kitty, and then they start plotting this and hatching this plan. They're going to call, or they're going to threaten to call X Factor on Larry and say that he's a mutant. They don't think he's a mutant, but they've hatched this plan to make fun of him, a la not Firestarter, Carrie, just kind of like Carrie, where they make fun of her in high school and stuff. Maybe that not that far, but they're just going to have this little X Factor thing. They give it to him. Kitty has too much to drink, so she's a little drunk at this party, and Larry's he's still having a hard time really just getting into the whole party scene, and enjoying each other's company and making friends and all this stuff. And then they hand him, or they do this out of the way. They don't do it so that he knows who it is. They just kind of put it somewhere where he'll find it, where it's an unknown thing, where we know who you are, we know what you can do, and we're going to call X Factor Mutie. So he gets super upset. He crinkles it up. He gets super upset. He doesn't want anybody to see, and he really likes Kitty, and he really wants to have fun with her. And so she invites him to go back to the mansion. I can't remember. It's go back to the mansion, or it's at the junction of Gray Malkin Lane and Route 126. I think that's the mansion, or it's a room. It's a house off of the mansion or something like that. So they're kind of partying after the dance, and they're just feeling good. Not all of them are drunk. They're just feeling. They're high school kids. They've got all of this energy. They've got all of this excitement, and they're just kind of talking like they normally do. and um, they're talking about Larry, and they're talking about Kitty and stuff, whether or not she likes him and whether or not he likes her, and are they going to hook up and stuff like that. Um, and so they really do connect, and they have a really good enjoyable time. But then they're at this table, and he's really struggling to find a way into their conversation, and a way to ingratiate them into him. And so he starts telling them the mutant joke that he heard later from those other kids, and they are not feeling. Obviously, they're mutants. They're the new mutants, and they're really having a hard time. They're really disgusted, and they're really, they're like, they take off. They're like, we thought you were cool. I guess not, especially Kitty. Because he says, can I call you again, see you again sometime? I thought you were a nice kid, Larry. My mistake. Please, goodbye, Larry. So he's just in the outs after saying these two stupid mutant jokes, and he's really having a hard time. So he's really depressed. He just kind of walks home, and he's going to call his parents. His parents are away on some kind of business trip or something like that. And he's just like, what would I say to him when I call? I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling sad. And uh, I mean, you kind of know where it's going. You kind of feel like where it's going. He decides that he needs a drink. Like a lot of us have done in the past. When you're feeling lonely, you're feeling sad, you're like, hey, I'll just cover it up with alcohol. And he spits it out. He doesn't like it. That's not something he's going to do. He goes into his room. Unlike so many people that do, just cover their whole lives with alcohol and their sadness, and they're trying to cover their sadness with the alcohol. Not everybody, there are good, a good chunk of people that use alcohol in the correct way, and just enjoy it. But then there's the sad parts too. He goes into his room. He's checking out the sculpture. The room is very sparse because they've just moved in, and he also wants plenty of room to show his sculptures to himself. He hasn't shown his sculptures to anybody. He hasn't shown them to his parents. Nobody knows he's a mutant. And Rain, so he's looking at his stuff. Rain, who's a werewolf, as we all know, she sneaks in. She's peering in his room. She knew that he was something that he wasn't, and she knew that he was a good kid, and she that's why he was saying those mutant jokes and stuff, because he was just trying to cover it up or whatever. And so she's so excited to go home and tell everybody that Larry is not a jerk. He's just a mutant himself, and that they can be friends with him, and they can help him show, that being a mutant isn't so bad. So the next morning, it was nighttime. She didn't wake everybody up to tell everybody that Larry's a mutant, and that they could really just be friends with him. Magma's making dinner. They go through this whole thing. Don't burn it. Why aren't you using the stove? And she says, I'm using my mutant powers to the good of everything. And Rain is like, hey, everybody, I've got this great news. But before she can say it, Magneto kind of comes into the room and abruptly says, can that wait? I've just been informed by Miss Hogarth, the principal of Salem Center High School, that one of her students, who many of you met last night evening, Larry Bodine, has committed suicide. So he kills himself because he just can't find a way to live with with who he is. And just like so many high school kids, I don't know how many of you have known somebody that's committed suicide, but it's horrible. It really truly is horrible, and there's really nothing you can do. The only thing I can say is that if you're a parent and you think your kid is being alone a lot or whatever, don't be shy in interceding and saying something to them about something, because if something happened to them, if they did do that, then you would feel forever horrible about it. And better to say something than to not. Better to make them feel a little bit embarrassed maybe, than to not. But who am I to give parental advice? So they're in the danger room, and they're just talking about Larry, and they're talking about being a mutant, all this stuff. And this is just the usual danger room fare, which is one of my favorite parts about the X-Men comic books, because It does. It gives them a chance to kind of let loose, and yet at the same time, they're not. It's not an earth-shattering villain attack or whatever. They can just kind of be themselves, and it's a little bit of action at the same time. So they just kind of keep talking about that and different things. Bobby and Ilyana Magic are having their little contest where she brings them to her demon world, and the demons truss him up and stuff, but then he breaks out of the chains and stuff. So I mean, it's just kind of a cool little thing where they're kind of just they're talking about what's happened, and they're talking about other things in their life. Kitty, on the other hand, goes to Larry's house, wants to figure out, is it her fault that he killed himself? Is it her fault because when he told those jokes that she gave him the cold shoulder afterward? So she's trying to figure all that out, and she realizes that he was a mutant. She realizes he made this beautiful light sculpture, crystalline sculpture that nobody could have made, and she realizes off the bat that he's a mutant, and she touches it and it blows up, and she's horribly sad. She just cries and cries and cries about both the sculpture, both Larry, and that her new friend, who was just mistaken, and it was just a hard thing for him to go through. So Rain comes along, and she wants to get the people responsible. She found this note, or rather Kitty finds the note of X Factor. Somebody's going to call X Factor and stuff. So Rain's like, I'm going to go find these people and I'm going to make them pay. And then there's this little scene where the parents come home, and she's just like, Jim, let's go away. I can't. We must marry. But my baby, tell me this is a dream, Jim. Please, dear Lord, let Larry be all right. I wish I could marry, but our son is dead. So it's really super impactful and sad. So they go to the mall. Rain has tracked the kids that gave Larry the X Factor pamphlet saying that they were going to send him to X Factor, whatever. And she's growling, and she's going to go pounce on them when Kitty and the rest of the New Mutants stop her. And they're like, they are going to pay for the rest of their lives for this. And they're forever going to remember, this. And that is going to be their punishment enough, because they did this horrible thing, and that they're going to pay for it, and we don't have to do it physically to them. And then, so they're at a school eulogy for Larry, and Kitty is deciding what she's going to do. The New Mutants are like, if you want to tell everybody about our secret identities, go ahead. We've got your back. You can do whatever you want, and we'll be with you. We will be with you. And this is the part where this is the end where I'm just going to read verbatim what they say, where she's thinking, see guys, that's the point. We have each other to lean on. Larry had no one. And then she's thinking, like I am now, if it was just me, I'd phase right through that podium. But have I the right to compromise the identities of the New Mutants and my fellow X-Men as well, even if they said I could? I'm terrified. So what am I going to do about it? First time out for my new glasses. Wonder how I look. Some of you know me. Most don't. I'm here because I guess I knew Larry Bodine best. But that isn't saying much. I hardly knew him at all. If I had, maybe we would be here at this memorial assembly. Who is he then, that we gather to mourn him? Who am I? A four-eyed, flat-chested brat chick, brain-heaved, stuck-up Xavier snob freak? Don't like those words? I could use nicer. I've heard worse. Who here hasn't? So often, so casually, that maybe we've forgotten the power they have to hurt. Nigger, spick, walk, slope, faggot, mutie. The list is so long and so cruel. They're labels, put-downs, and they hurt. But usually we laugh it off, or hit back with words of our own, or fists, or we suffer in silence. No big deal. This is the rough edge of reality, right? Why make a fuss? Trouble was, when someone labeled Larry Bodine a mutie, they hit home because he was. His power created beauty. That's it. He did it with light and color and what Mozart did with music, and he wanted nothing more than to be accepted by his peers and possibly even liked. And isn't that what any of us really want? To have friends, people to care for us, not to be alone. If we're lucky, we have someone to turn to. Larry didn't. He thought if people knew the truth, they'd stop seeing him and only see the label, the brand, his personal scarlet letter. So he hid the truth and lived in terror of being discovered. He even joined in when others put mutants down. What mattered the cost to his soul if it made his life a little better? That's a tragedy. That's our shame. Think of what you say. Imagine it being said about you. It's easy to make fun, real easy to be cruel. Try sometime being on the receiving end. If we're to learn anything from Larry's death, it should be this. You want to know who I am? I'm Catherine Pride. That's the only thing that matters. The rest are just labels. So there's the New Mutants, number 45, 25th anniversary. And I wish I could make a comic book as good as that. When I was a teen, I don't think I ever felt like that, like I wanted to commit suicide. Everybody's had it bad when they were teens or preteens or whatever, and they might even think about that. But reading this, it surely helped me 100%. I have no doubt. It's one of the reasons I love the X-Men. It's one of the reasons I love New Mutants. One of the reasons I love Chris Claremont and comic books in general, because it has the power to change people's lives, and and that's what I would really truly love to do. I would love to be able to think maybe I changed somebody's life for the better. And so thanks for watching. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell and all that fun stuff. And I'll see you next time. I'll see you this weekend, hopefully, with a live stream with Joe. And remember to go vote on that poll. And remember, comic books can be really personal and they can be really powerful. And if you guys have a powerful comic book that you've read previously in your life, I really, truly want to hear about it, because maybe I could read it. Maybe I haven't read it. Maybe I can read it. And it'll affect me too. And that would be a really great thing. So thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time. And as always, keep on creating.